Hi, this is Dave Feldberg, and welcome back to the Honest Take Podcast. This is number 6, Understable Fairway Drivers. Without ado, let's get started. The only change that you'll see in the podcast is, hey, I got myself a new Blue Ice microphone, so we should definitely be able to hear me a lot better and a lot clearer. So, all right, let's get started as we usually do, the new releases. So, what I have this time is the MVP Delirium. That's right here. It's really sweet. It's one of their Axum discs, high-speed driver that just came out in the last 6 months. Really nice feeling disc. You'll see when I threw in the video, it was very overstable, high speed. I would have to say that it is a great addition to their line because what this is a really fast disc that goes left. And I think that that's a necessity for most companies. And I like the name Delirium. The plastic's got a really nice look, the two-tone. My testing team, they found this to be a little overstable but fast, so they could use it for utility shots. But for the everyday thrower who rips a disc, this is going to be a great addition because this thing flies far and fast. So I like it. I would recommend it. And I would say thanks to MVP for putting out great discs and be a partner this year. And if you haven't tried one yet, go out and get a Delirium. It's fast, overstable, and trustworthy. Now, the second new release is coming from Costa. And it's not a new release, as you'll say, hey, Dave, the Coxae has been out for a while. But I've covered all their discs, and so they haven't put anything new out that we haven't covered. So I thought as a new release, I would do their Coxae. And I just thought it was an interesting disc. So when you look at it, it's like half mid-range, half driver. It's got a unique edge. It's got that good Costa K-line plastic that everybody's starting to like. But what I would say about it is it's just what it feels like. It's just between a mid-range and a driver. I noticed that I was comfortable throwing it further than a mid-range, but not as far as a driver, and it filled that gap in my bag. And I really enjoyed it. I actually bag this from time to time because I find that for some unique shots that it really works good for me from 3 to 330. So my testing team really enjoyed this disc. They all liked it. They thought it felt good in the hand, and it went really far for them for a mid-range. So if you haven't tried, like I said, the Costa line of stuff, get one in your hand. They're really good. I want to give a shout-out to Costa again for being a tour sponsor. And just say, if you haven't got a Coxae or tried one of these yet, give it a try. This is a unique disc, and I don't think anybody in the market's quite making one like it. So give it a try. I think you'll like it. So those are the two new releases. It's the MVP Delirium and the Costa Coxae. That covers all the manufacturers so far for this year. We've done one from each company. And if you have any new releases out there that you think that we should review in the last 2 episodes of the year, feel free to send those to me by email. That's dave.feldberg@nextgendiscgolf.com. All right, we're to the review section. Everybody likes this part. Fairway drivers, as you know, understable. First one on the docket, the Dismania Sunbird. This is a great disc. It flew just the way I wanted, nice and understable, turned over with control. My team loved it. They said it was good for them. They could put it right in their bag. So it was a great disc for all levels. It does what it's supposed to do, and I enjoyed it. Other parts about it that were enjoyable is it is that old DX plastic that I love to grip, like a good mid-range. And it'll probably break in, so you can really count on it becoming more understable and eventually probably being your roller. So if you haven't tried a Sunbird today, get out and try one. It's a good disc, thanks to Dismania. Next on the docket is the Gateway Assassin. Now, I should have probably used the Spear here, as that fits more in the category, but we've already covered the Spear in the previous podcast, so I tried to pick another understable driver in their lineup. And this one right here, I didn't find it that understable. I thought it was more of a straight mid-range. My team also found it to be a tad overstable, but quick. So I do like that. The plastic is that really nice Evolution plastic. It's kind of like old pro plastic, as they would call it. It's got a nice taut pop top, and it's got a nice look to it. It feels good, but you can grip it. So again, Gateway doing good things out there. Get yourself a Gateway Assassin today and try one out. Next in the line, Icon Edition Legacy Mongoose. That's right, this is their understable fairway driver, and it performed perfectly. I would say out of all the ones I threw, this one turned as much as the others, but it fought a little flex to land straight at the end. So I really like the flight of this one, and I would probably bag it. That's how good I thought it was. I would also say that the plastic is that nice Icon plastic. It doesn't have a pop top. It's kind of flat, but it does fly good. So if you haven't tried one of these Mongooses, I know I played with Patrick Brown and other Legacy players, and they love this Mongoose. It's in their bag. So give Legacy a shot. Try this Mongoose out. You won't be disappointed. And as my team, this is one of their favorites because they could turn it and it would come back. So it's very user-friendly. Great job to Legacy. Thanks for your support. Next, from my sponsor, the Sphinx from Infinite Discs. So this particular one right here is the really nice plastic that we're getting made. It's the eye blend, and the eye blend is very close to star plastic. So it's got a little pop to the top, a nice finish, feels good in the hand, and this is just what it's cracked up to be. It's a turnover driver. I turned it very easily. It flew to the right. It didn't turn into a roller. I think that my team said that this is probably their favorite of all the ones that I had them test this time. They really enjoyed it, asked me where they could get one, stuff like that. And I would just say that, again, Innova's making the discs for Infinite, so you know they're of a high quality. And again, they've done it. So go out and try one of these Infinite Sphinx. You'll be an instant turnover in your bag. I've added it to my bag this year, and I would just say, if you haven't tried one, go out and get one. And thanks again to Infinite. Keep making those good discs, making me look good. Next up, the classic Sidewinder from Innova Champion Discs. Now, this one I had my own Team Innova one, brand new, so I broke it out. It's a really nice star Sidewinder. I guess some people would have called this one the Night Shift because you can't see through it unless you hold it up to the light. But I thought this was a classic example of the Sidewinder, and I really enjoy this. It's got that good star poppy plastic. It's not full pop top, but it has the drum effect. Really nice feel. It's that plastic where you can grip it, but it's still shiny. And the Sidewinder just has a good classic flight. In the video, I threw it low, so it won't look that good. But in general, this turns over really nice. I can control it. I can use it for air shots and rollers in the same round. That's something that I really enjoyed. And I just think that overall, this is a good choice for people who are learning to throw controlled mid-range turnovers or rollers. So, as usual, Innova Champion always makes great products. Here's their Sidewinder. You've probably tried it at home. But if you haven't tried a Sidewinder, go out and try one. They're very thrower-friendly, and they'll immediately add distance to people who are throwing too overstable of discs. So thanks to Innova again for being our partner. Next up is the Falk, and we've covered that, so I won't go too deep on it. It's the Costa Plasta Falk, but it's the only one in their line that fits into this category. And I'll just tell you, I've been throwing it all year. I love it. My testing team, they loved it. I've told you that in the past. It looks like a shiny, really slippery disc, but it's sticky on the grip. It has a nice drum top that you're looking for, very tight. So I like this see-through plastic. I think this is a good disc. I've done some really good shots with it this year. And if you're looking for a fairway driver that's not from one of the main brands and you're looking to try something new, go out and get yourself one of these Costa Plasta Falks. If you're disappointed, call me and I'll trade you for it. I really like this disc. So give it a chance. Thanks to Costa Plasta for their sponsorship this year. Next is the Prodigy F7. So Prodigy has their fairway line. This is the 7. Should be the most understable. I threw it. It did turn a little bit for me, but then it did flex back. So it has some integrity, but I believe as it breaks in, if you look at the profile, that it'll totally become a nice understable fairway driver for you. So if you're interested in trying a Prodigy fairway driver, start with the F7 and move your way up. But I think that the F7 is a good starting point. I was able to throw it. It turned really nicely, flexed a little bit. My team liked this one, but they did see it was a little more overstable than some of the other fairway drivers I had them test. But overall, we liked it. It's in that really good 400 plastic. They call it 400G, I believe. And it's really sticky in the hand. It's not too thick on the rim. Really a nice disc here from Prodigy. Like I said, if you haven't tried one, go out and give it a flight today. It's a really good turnover fairway. Feels good in the hand. And again, thanks to Prodigy for their tour support this season. All right, we got 3 left. Really popular this year, so I chose the Disccraft Heat. Now, the Disccraft Heat is a nice understable kind of distance fairway driver from Disccraft. Sorry, wiping off some of the leaves that it was in. And I, was recommended this by Michael Joe when he knew I was doing this stuff to test. And he's right. It's a very controllable fairway driver that you can use in the woods. It's got a little distance on it. Feels good in the hand. Got a nice pop top drum effect. This is in that Z plastic see-through. And it feels good in the hand. My testing team really liked this disc also. They had it in their top 3 for the week, and they really enjoyed how it felt and flew. It gave them that little extra distance in the fairway and a turnover that they needed. A lot of times when you go up to a faster disc, you end up getting a little more stability. So this was a really nice addition by Disccraft in their line, that it's a slightly faster fairway driver, but you can count on it to turn over and throw flip up through the woods. So good job to Disccraft. We really enjoyed your sponsorship this year, and keep putting out the good discs. All right. Next on the line is Latitude 64, and I chose the Fury. Now, this might be a little more understable than the others, and my team found this to be the most understable of all the discs that we tested this time. But it's very controllable. I use it for late flip air shots and rollers. It's currently in my bag and has been for a few years. And I think that Latitude's really made a good disc here. They make a bunch of different plastics. This is that white, really solid plastic that they make. But I think that you can find these. They're not that hard to come by. And I think this is a good addition. If you are having a hard time turning over a fairway driver, go buy a Fury and you'll immediately have a turnover flex shot in your game. You'll see when I threw it, it turned over quite a bit. And overall, I enjoyed it. The team enjoyed it. Like I said, that's the most understable. And, amateurs that I have tested love the understable stuff so they can get flights. So congratulations again to Latitude 64. I know they make good discs, and this is one that obviously has been a staple in their collection now. So again, thanks to Latitude for all their support, and get yourself a Fury. I promise you won't be disappointed. Now, last but not least, it was recommended to you by one of our viewers to use the Relay. So the MVP Relay is their understable fairway. I threw it. It flipped a little bit, but then it flexed. So I wouldn't say it's as understable as all of the discs here, but it's definitely understable. Could be used as an understable fairway driver and will probably break in pretty good. My team also found it to be a little more stable than the rest, but they did like it. Most of the team has always liked the MVP discs, I think just because they're different and they feel different in the hand. So if you haven't tried an MVP Relay, get out and try one. My team recommends it, and so do I. And overall, MVP makes a unique disc, and you got to give their stuff a try because it's much different than what you're used to. And again, thanks to MVP for their sponsorship this year. We really appreciate it. Now, as I usually been doing, let's rank them in order of stability. I would say that the most understable was the Fury, Latitude 64 Fury, followed by the Sunbird from Dismania. And then next in line would probably be the Falk from Costa, followed by the Sphinx from Infinite Discs, then the Sidewinder from Innova, then I'll go with the Mongoose from Legacy, the Heat from Disccraft, followed by the F7 from Prodigy, the MVP Relay, and then the most stable being the Gateway Assassin. So again, in review, when you're looking at the discs, most stable was the Gateway Assassin. Next was the MVP Relay. The F7, good stability with the flex. The Heat turns, but you can count on it to come back. Mongoose turns beautifully and flexed late. Sidewinder always turns and usually comes back. The Sphinx turned quite a bit and just glided to the right and landed very nicely. The Falk also turned and glided right to the nice and glided correctly to the right and landed nicely. And then the Sunbird just continuously turned, and so did the Fury. So when you're looking at these fairway drivers, the only thing that I would say to you is don't go out and buy 4 or 5 from different brands. It is really difficult to learn them that way. Go out and get some new ones, maybe 3 or 4 from each brand, or 3 or 4 of one model from the brand, and then go out and get used to them. If that one fits your game, then you can break in some other ones, and then maybe you can get some more stable stuff from that particular brand with that same feel. So that was Fairway Drivers Review, understable. And in the next podcast, we will start to move to high-speed drivers, stable high-speed drivers. So that's the review section. Now for the giveaway, I did drawing, and I went through all the names of people that have played, and it kind of worked out funny. Jeremy Richards from Houston, Texas, is the giveaway winner, and he actually is a player and a TD, so he's run about 3 or 4 events this year, but he's also traveled around to his areas and played in the events other people's played, and he's playing in the national championship because he qualified. So thanks, Jeremy Richards, for your support. You'll receive your package in the mail, and keep spreading the good NG word. We appreciate it. It's mail call time. That's right. I love this part. This is where you send in your questions to dave.feldberg@nextgendiscgolf.com. I pick the best 2 each month, and I read them back to you. If I picked yours, then you'll get a package in the mail. And this month, I keep saying this week, I'm sorry. But this month, let's get out my pad. The mail call questions came from Tyler Wozenak, PDJ number 92805. He says, and it's a great question, other than hitting trees, how can one beat in discs? And if you bought 3 to 5 of the same, how could you accelerate the process for a couple so that you could have different stabilities in your bag? All right. So to answer Tyler's question, the quick answer is yes, you were right. Trees, rocks, all these things you can do to break it in. But one thing that we used to do when we got a new disc that we wanted to break in, but we didn't want to break the rules, is it says you have to be throwing it to break it in. You can't do it at home, like by scratching it or rubbing it or doing something like that. So what we used to do is, say I wanted to break in a new T-Bird, well, then me and Climo would head to the parking lot and play catch with it. And we just play catch for about a half hour and let this thing, hit the concrete a bunch of times and, skip it to each other and stuff like that. And what that does is it starts to remove this under edge here. And that's where most of your stability is coming from. So if you take that under edge and that starts to wear out from either hitting the ground or playing catch in a parking lot, then your disc will become more understable. Besides that, I don't really know what else you can do to make them more understable quicker, because the rules state that it has to be done throwing. You cannot alter the disc on your own, put it in a washing machine or something weird like that, So just go out, keep throwing it, throw it against a brick wall, over and over again. You could do that. There's lots of options to throwing it to break it in. But just know that you want to shave off the bottom edge as you are throwing it into things. So throw it on a rough surface, and I promise you, if you take a brand new anything overstable and you play catch on a parking lot for an hour and let that bottom hit the concrete and skip up to you and throw sliders to each other and all those different things on the ground, I promise once you towel off the disc, it will be immediately more understable. So that's my answer for you, Tyler. Now, question number 2 came from Jan Tilley. He's been playing for over 30 years and has gotten out of the game. And he's come back and he has a question. He had multiple questions, but the one that I liked was, what do various companies look for when sponsoring a player? Do they look for ratings, winning percentage, stuff like that? And I wanted to respond to that because I've always been asked, as being someone who was once the team captain from Innova to the team manager at Latitude to helping with Infinite. And I would say this, ratings, winning percentage, sure, that'll get you sponsored. If you're a 1,000+ rated player and you're winning tournaments, you won't have a problem finding a sponsor. But if you look at many of the companies have a lower level team called a street team or an ambassador team. And what they're looking for is people who not only play on a regular basis, but give back to the sport. Whether you're TDing, running a league, putting in courses, helping kids, just donating your time in general to the game and getting a good reputation in the community. So if you're somebody who has done that, or you think that you want to be sponsored, there are other options. Companies are definitely looking for people who show their company in a positive light and do things that give back to the community that are talked about. So if you don't have the skills to be sponsored, or you're trying to push, do something else. Run a tournament, give back to some children at a school, take part in designing a course, volunteer for your local club, and then accomplish some things, and then go back to a company and say, hey, I may only be 960, but I'm the club president, and I put in 2 courses last year, and I help make decisions on the tournaments. If you do all that, you will for sure be picked to be on one of these teams. So don't worry about it. If you're out there and you're sponsored and you think, I'm not 1,000 rated, I'll never get sponsored, there's other ways to get sponsored. Be a great ambassador, be a good person for the sport, and someone will definitely bring you on their squad. Well, that's what I have for the questions. Those are my 2 questions for the week. And like I said, if you have questions, you want to submit them for the next show, that's dave.feldberg@nextgenerationtour.com or dave.feldberg@nextgendiscgolf.com. Either one will get to me, and I look forward to your questions. And like I always say, if I don't read your question online or I don't respond to you, I just get a lot of questions, and I do my best. So hopefully you guys are happy, and I look forward to seeing some more questions. Okay, so we're to the team highlights section that I always used to like to do in each of the podcasts. First, we will highlight our pro team member of this podcast, which is Paul Macbeth. That's correct. Paul Macbeth is a Next Generation Tour ambassador and part of our pro team. And it's clear that he's the 5-time world champion. You don't have to go into all his accolades. He has played in many events with 125 wins, over $477,000 in earnings, and a 1060 rating, which is the all-time rating record. Besides that, let's talk a little bit about where Paul came from. In 2005, he played 2 events. His second event was a Junior World Championships where he got 9th place. And in that event, it's kind of funny when you look at who played in that Junior Worlds in 2005. He lost to the types of Devin Owens, turned out to be a top professional. Paul Ulibarri turned out to be a top professional. And James Conrad, who also turned out to be a professional USDGC current champion. So those are the type of class that he was in, so you could see why he started to push. So after 2005, 2006, he played advanced. He played really solid. He tried to play in the Golden State Classic as a pro. I actually won that event. I looked back at the stats. He didn't cash. He finished like 36th, but he got some experience at a young age playing professional. 2007, he started to dominate the advanced division. And basically, after the domination, about halfway through the year, he decided to turn pro. And he won his first pro event at the Sunrise Showdown. And that was his turning pro moment. And that was in 2007. In 2008, he won a few more B tiers, but he hadn't really tapped into winning big events. He was playing in them. He started to take top 10 at bigger events and get his name out there, but he wasn't the talk of town. By 2010, he won his first A tier, the End of the Trail Classic there in California, and he started to pick it up. But he still hadn't really made a big show at anything big. By 2011, though, is when it became history. 2011, he won his first national tour tournament at the Memorial in Scottsdale, Arizona. And then after that, well, just let me tell you, it's all history. We don't need to go into it. He's the all-time leader in majors now. He passed me. He passed me for second. He's about to pass Climo. He's the all-time leader in national tours. He passed my 19. I think he's at 21. We know he's the all-time cash leader, and he's the all-time rating leader. So, obviously there's not much more to say about his accolades. To talk a little bit about what he's been doing, he's had a great year. He supports NG, which we appreciate. And he is working with Foundation Disc Golf, which is a sponsor to the NG Tour. We want to give a shout out to them. He's trying to do good things there. And overall, I just wanted to say Paul McBeth is a fantastic ambassador for the sport. I've been playing for 20 years. Many of us have been at the top. And there hasn't been many like him that have come that can really attach themselves to the whole community and the whole community support them. So I just hope that Paul McBeth is the beginning of the type of ambassador players we're going to have be the top player in the world. And as a disc golf professional, I'm proud that Paul McBeth is the ambassador for the sport now and ranked number 1. I think he's doing a great job, and he's taken us to places we haven't been yet. So I just want to say thanks, Paul McBeth, for being a part of the pro team, and we really enjoy having you, and thank you for all the things that you do for disc golf. Now, are you the GOAT? A lot of people want to know, is he the GOAT? I'll just tell you as simple as I tell you. I've even talked to him about it. Ken Climo is the GOAT, but dang, Paul McBeth is on his way. And if Paul McBeth continues for a few more years at this pace, you're going to have to maybe consider calling him the GOAT. But currently, he's on his way to being the GOAT. And ain't nothing wrong with that, since he still has many years ahead of him. Thanks, Paul McBeth. Now, next on the list for this week, or month, I keep saying this week, you guys are going to laugh at home, but is the Premier Team. That's right, for the Premier Team, I wanted to highlight Joey Bruno, 55032 from Oceanside, California. That's correct. He joined our team. He has 9 career wins. And, besides playing disc golf, I think he's a chiropractor. He likes to work on bodies. He's in that kind of business. He's been studying a bunch of medical stuff, and he really knows his stuff. But he still loves to play disc golf as a hobby, and he's pretty good, so he's always lingering between that top advanced and pro level. He started joining the PGA around 2012. He played rec in 2012, did okay in 2013. He played intermediate, did okay, and by 2014 he started to play advanced and dabble. He was winning in the intermediate events, and out of nowhere, he got his first intermediate win, a B tier, in New Bern, North Carolina in 2014. So in 2015, he basically just stayed in advanced and played a lot of advanced events from 2015 till now. He had great moments and dabbled in a lot of pro events, trying to get himself the experience, trying to decide should he be an advanced player or a pro player. In 2018, he committed to playing in mostly pro events and only played in stuff like the Next Gen and Advanced. He qualified for the finals. He finished in the cash, but it wasn't his best showing. But he did win the regional event. So he was on his way up to playing great. And in 2019, he decided to turned pro and made his first cash at Goat Hill Park. And now Joey is a professional player, and congratulations for you for turning pro, coming from the Next Gen Tour to turning pro. We're proud of you. And just overall, a little bit about Joey is that he's just a really nice guy. When you walk up to him, he makes you feel better. He's got a lot of nice things to say. He's really fun to play with, and we are proud to have him on our team. So if you see Joey Bruno out there, ask him to show you his overhand shot, because he could throw an overhand as good as almost anybody in the world. And if he didn't have a full-time job and a career that he was interested in, I think we'd see him at the top pro levels. So another shout out to Joey. Thanks for being a part of the team in 2019. Next, but not least, is our exclusive team. And I wanted to highlight off our exclusive team, Kyle Monta. He's from Frederick, Colorado, PDJ number 16565. And his current rating's only 891, but he's a mover and shaker. I want to give you a little bit about his PDJ history. He's played in 83 events with 1 career win. He joined the PDJ around 2000, about the same time I met him. He was on the THC, which was Team High Country. They were running some A tiers in Colorado, and the tour would go there, and we would stop and play his events. So I met him then. Throughout that time, 2000 to 2005, he played a lot of AM tournaments from rec to intermediate to advanced, trying to find his place. And he won his first advanced event in 2002 at the Michiana Open, which I thought was, really cool. 2005 to 2010, he became inactive. He was just helping run tournaments. He had his company called Phoenix Disc Sports, which made the first backpack straps in the sport, and he had really nice golf bags. In 2010 to 2016, he played pro and cashed at the 2013 Spring Fling Open to get his first professional cash. And then he moved to Masters Pro and cashed in 2016 at a few events, gathering himself some career cash. And, then he kind of stopped playing as much in PDJ tournaments. But from 2016 to 2019, he has kept his membership current so he could be the TD of such events of the 303 Open and other events for Next Generation Tour, so he could be a current official. So I just want to say that, a little bit about Kyle. Kyle's one of those hard-working lifers that we have in disc golf. He gives everything he can to the sport. He wants to run great events for the people in his community. He moves and shakes when it comes to companies and arrangements, and he just gives it all. He's always available for the players, and hey, everybody tries their best, and he does. So I just want to say, Kyle, you keep up the hard fight, buddy, because we at Next Gen believe in everything you do, and we think that you're doing great things for the sport. And yes, you've had your trials and tribulations with everything with your company and everything that you've come through, but I think you're in a good place now, and people that in the Colorado area understand and respect what you've done for the sport. So thanks again for being part of Team Next Gen in 2019, and we look forward to having you in the future. Well, that's what I got for the team highlights, and I just want to say, as I told you in the previous podcast, if you're interested in being on the Team Next Gen next year, just send me an email, again, at dave.feldberg@nextgendiscgolf.com, and tell me why you think you should be on the NG team, and we'll get back to you. Okay, we're to my favorite part, which is Legends of the Game. And I don't mean to sound funny, but yes, it's my favorite part. We talk about people I believe belong in the Hall of Fame who have not got there yet. Now, this particular person is a legend. Now, his stats aren't as good, you'll hear when I go through them, as some of the other legends. But if we're talking about legends of the game and people who influenced people in the sport, one person that cannot be forgot is PDJ number 3513. That's Glenn the Whittler Whitlock from Canada, British Columbia, living now in Gibsons, British Columbia, Canada. He has been a Canadian legend that has been on the professional tour many different years throughout his time, and he has played in 265 events with 74 wins over his career. So it's not like he doesn't win tournaments. 74 wins is quite a bit, and especially when he was in Canada where there wasn't that many tournaments to choose from. He joined the PDGA in 1985. And in 85-86, he just played one event, which was, I believe, the Canadian Championships, where he finished in the top 10 twice. In 87, he kicked in winning, and in 87, he won the Stockholm Open, which I think is a great accomplishment. I never could win that. He went to Europe back in 87 and won the Stockholm Open in Sweden. His first cash, though, came in the Kleinman Challenge earlier that year, where he took second place, and that's when he became an official professional. He continued to play at that level and took top 40 in a bunch of worlds at the end of the 90s, and then 6th at the Canadian Championship. In 1990, he had his best pro worlds finish of 16th place, which is pretty respectable. In 92, he moved to Masters, and he started winning a lot of events. The first year, he won 11 of his 21 events he played in, 7th in the World Championships, and proved he was one of the best Masters players in the world at the time. In 93, he finished 4th at the Masters Worlds. In 94, he went to Japan and won the Japan Open in Masters. So he was one of the dominant Masters players of his time there in the mid-90s. In 1998, he finished off his Masters career by winning the Masters Overall World Championship. That's the overalls. That includes freestyle and all the other, accuracy and different games. And that's where Glenn always excelled. And once he was done with that, he started to move to Grandmasters. And in 2006, he started to crush. He got 7th at the Worlds in Grandmasters and started to win almost every Grandmasters regular tournament that he played in. Other things that I thought were pretty good, the 2016 Senior Grandmasters, that's right, he got 6th in the Worlds. And he also has played top 15 in all 10 Masters Worlds that he played in, which I thought was really impressive. And the thing is about him, other highlights that I don't want to leave out, in 2001, he finished 22nd in the USDGC at Grandmaster's age. And then, he keeps winning in the Open. He won as late as 2007, which would have put him in his 50s, the Gem State Championships in Idaho, a B tier over many respected pros. So, I just want to get the idea out that he could really play. And one thing about the Whittler is he wasn't known to be the big crushing winning guy. As you can see, he only won certain events. But he was so consistent. He was always 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th, 7th. He was always right there, and everybody knew who he was. Now let's talk a little bit about his game. His game was very interesting. He's a smaller fella and wasn't known for ripping the disc. He was known for having all kinds of trick shots. He could throw overhand wrist flips. He could throw every shot in the game, basically. I remember playing with him in a USDGC, maybe that year that he took 22nd, actually. He comes off the tee at 5 at Winthrop Gold, the big water hole, and he goes roller off the tee, which is pretty tough to do. Then he follows, backhand roller, then he follows that up with a sidearm out over the water to put himself in position, and then goes overhand wrist flip. That's right, overhand wrist flip over the water 300 feet and park the hole for a drop-in birdie. If you ever head to Winthrop or watch the videos, just imagine hole 5 that he did that. So he had major disc skills. Now let's talk a little bit about his personality. Well, actually, a little more about disc skills. I mentioned the overall. He's known to be great in all the overall events, from accuracy, and he was involved in freestyle, and MTA, and all these different things. He's always been an overall player and been really good at it. So, he's not just a disc golfer. Now, let's talk a little bit about his personality. Glenn is awesome. Glenn is one of those guys that we have in disc golf that is a unique personality. He was from Canada, and he traveled the U.S. without a vehicle. That's right, he would come to the U.S. on foot with his bag and hitchhike if he had to, or catch rides with people and just make it happen. And he would travel to 20, 30 events a year that way. I remember when I first met him, he was on foot, and he was at the Lumberjack Open in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and I was having a dinner for the players at my house. My parents decided to cook for everybody after the event. And he asked I asked him if he wanted to come, and he said, okay, I'll be there. Well, everybody gets there, and there's no Glenn Whitlock, and I'm like, where is he? All of a sudden, I look down my country road, and he's walking. He walked like 10 miles from the course to my house with his backpack on like it was nothing and showed up to the party. The funny thing is, my mom has fed a lot of disc golfers over the years. I mean, literally a lot of them. Avery Jenkins size, Mace Man size, And she said, and she still says to this day in her elder age, that Glenn guy that you had to my house, man, he ate more than anybody. She said that he sat down and could eat more food than an Avery Jenkins, which is hard to believe when the man weighs probably 125 pounds soaking wet, 5 foot, maybe 4. So I just think that that's a really interesting thing about Glenn. He really knew how to pack it in so he could be on the road and be on tour. And he just had a great, unique personality that was different than everybody. And he was an influencer. If you go to British Columbia, Canada, and you mention disc golf, they're going to know who Glenn Whitlock is. Glenn Whitlock is a Canadian legend and probably one of the top few players to ever play in Canada. So I believe that he does belong in the Hall of Fame. And I just want to say, Glenn Whitlock, you are a true legend of the game and an inspiration to players like me when I was coming up. Thank you. Okay, well, that was our podcast number 6, Understable Fairway Drivers, and we covered the new releases, the Delirium and the Coxae. We went through our 10 different brands of understable fairway drivers. We did a review and giveaway for NG. We did our usual mail call, and then we did it with Team Highlight, and of course, my favorite legends of the game. So, Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's thank our sponsors, Infinite Disc and the Next Generation Tour. And look forward to podcast number 7, High Speed, Overstable Fairway Drivers. Until then, we'll see you in the fairway.